The dog was asking for it.
No, okay, we're not doing anything with my dog.
I'm not doing that. I'm saying the dog was just making moves.
The dog wasn't making moves, and I don't even want to question what I saw.
Right. You think your dog's gonna be young forever?
What?
Isn't gonna grow up and have desires? And I'm not saying I want to desire anything with your dog. I'm just saying your dog definitely desires.
It sounds like you do.
No,
it's way too early for you to be molesting my dog.
I ain't no molesting. Look, my hands are right here, right underneath the ears, going into its ears.
Okay, stop. No, get away from him.
No.
Get away from him.
Okay.
Stop it.
I had to go slow, or it would have gone deaf. You don't want deaf dog, Bobby.
We just caught him. We just taught him how to like retrieve and like bring back to us, and now I think you're really just regressing him.
Oh, so he's a bottom.
Okay, episode 45, guys.
He's about episode 45.
It's a big
Bobby's
one.
dog is bottom.
What are we doing here, Teddy?
Oh God, we are about to watch like the big main event of the Netflix. Yeah. Bigger than Mike Tyson and Nancy Drew.
And yeah, we've been training longer too. So.
Yeah. I've got really strong genital muscles.
What?
Like a core. Like my core is getting stronger.
Anyway, we're about to watch the cold case "Who Killed JonBenet" on Netflix. The Ramsey involved documentary that is going to be a nightmare to dispute and is going to set the case back a little bit. But that's why we're here. We're here to combat the misinformation.
Yeah,
we're going to be watching it live. We're going to have
training.
We'll have a live commentary on our Patreon. If you guys want to go sign up for our Patreon.com/JonBenet today.
Bobby, I feel like I'm hunting wild game. Like, I feel like I'm hunting a lion or wildebeest or something like that. Like here we've been just training all year long how to spot the deceptions, Decepticons, things like that, of that sort of nature. And then like of all the different tricks of rhetoric and gaslighting and things like that. And watching this special, I mean, you know, because like what's his name, John Ramsey, he was out back in the news and everything.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about that in this episode too.
And it just feels like, oh, the animals are out. Like all my trainings led me to this. I'm gonna go hunt me some game.
And they are slipping up too. So.
Are they?
Well, we're gonna be providing updates as we watch it throughout the installments. We're gonna stop and we're gonna be talking to you guys about it. But like I said, we're gonna have a full live audio of our commentary on our Patreon.
Yeah, you can go on our Patreon even if you've already watched the thing before. If you want to hear our live reactions to everything that's presented, and it make it feel like, oh, I don't know, maybe you got friends, people in your life that care about you. You're not watching these things alone as every day slips into each other and your life perilously tumbles closer towards its end. You can just go ahead and join our Patreon. Listen, I mean, it's going to be about 3 hours long of material.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. We got a lot to get through. But I got some coffee. Teddy's got some coffee.
And I got some shrimp with
I don't
lemon
know why you
pepper.
got shrimp. It's not.
I got lemon pepper for my shrimp.
Teddy texted me and he's like, do you have lemon pepper?
Yeah.
I said no.
Which is crazy.
And he said, okay, I'll bring the lemon pepper.
Well, I mean, that's what I had to
I didn't
fucking
like your
do.
tone.
Well, you know, you would think you'd be more prepared for shrimp.
I wouldn't.
Especially in a house with dogs.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why I'd be prepared for shrimp, so.
Bobby, I'm going to feed the dogs some of the shrimp.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
All right.
Just going to say.
All right, well, hey, you ready to get started with it?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and do this. God damn it.
All right, well, hey, I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
And I'm Teddy Ronald Reagan.
And this is
JonBenet Today.
Wow, okay.
Sheesh.
We just finished episode 1.
The JonBenet miniseries, the JonBenet experience.
The Netflix series. First episode.
Yeah.
The editing techniques are egregious.
It's egregious.
Most notably, the Linda Arndt, the positioning of the Linda Arndt segment where they say like, and then she went on TV and said we were the things. And they're trying to put the audience in the few days after the murder. And then if you look at the little timestamp, it shows Linda Arndt's interview was 99.
Yeah. She didn't sit down until her entire image had been pilloried, and then she sat down almost 3 years later. And this is the thing, Bobby, especially with that, is that I came into this. I mean, the production values are good. They've got those beautiful sets that make it look like some, fucking divorced alcoholic attorney is trying to solve a Zodiac killer.
Right.
It looks like a set for Manhunter, but except with a little girl hunter. There's a lot where I'm like, okay, it's an acclaimed filmmaker, even though we know, where his sympathies lie now.
Right.
But it's like, and for parts of it, first and foremost,
the portrait of the family.
The portrait of the family, people getting to know the Ramseys. It's all very sympathetic. It's home video footage, so it's them when they're on, in the years leading up to it.
It doesn't, but that's the thing is they're trying to paint it as a thing of like, look at this normal family. Why would they kill their daughter kind of thing? And it's like, that's without considering like, oh no, this could have been an accident.
Yeah.
All of this is irrelevant. You have to put that stuff out of your mind when they're showing how, look how normal we are. Where it's like, anybody could be normal.
Yeah, anybody can be a normal family and be smiley at Christmas time when they're sledding.
And then an accident happens.
And then 3 years later, an accident happens, and there's a cover up with the accident, and there's just a crime committed because it wasn't just the truth and nothing but the truth.
And then the whole DNA thing at the end, they're painting it as this thing of, number one, that DNA thing, the way they were testing it was so old. This is 1997. This is not a good test. This is why the police didn't really want to fully reveal it. And it was also the sample of it was so small. And again, this is 1997. And then for them to be like, there's no way like to explain the DNA, like the fingernail
Titanic
thing,
was out.
that's like paper, like fingernail clippers, or just not washing your hands. It was just normal shit that she had under her fucking fingernails.
Yeah.
And then
and Christmas has just happened. You know what I mean?
And the DNA in the underwear, it's already been like debunked in the way of it could be attributed to, like touch DNA. There is other DNA that we could test for now.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying at that point in time, that was not like a thing where it's reliably saying this. Yeah.
It's not even like what the movies would show with DNA. You're like, oh, look, like dino DNA. Like we were able to add a amphibian to a dinosaur DNA and then some amber. No, that shit was like...
They painted their whole cliffhanger at the end as the police knew this, that it excluded the Ramseys, which isn't true. And they purposely kept this from the public as their big cliffhanger.
That there was someone else's DNA there and there's all these suspects.
Police didn't want to tell people that.
Right. And that the Ramseys were ruled out too. Yeah. Like, come on.
Bullshit.
And then came out to Linda Ott thing, just so people know. I mean, if you haven't watched it yet, but basically, like they're going into the few days after the killing, where the Ramseys haven't like sat down and like talked like in an interrogation or an interview with the police. But they've given some samples, and around the time of like JonBenet, her funeral was,
right.
But then they start to like, what was it, around January 15th or something? It's like when they was like, what happened again around then, Bobby?
When they started doing the testing.
Oh, that's right, the testing, and like, but then like they kind of make it sound like that the Boulder police, they have their suspicions from day one. The parents did it, which statistically the parents did it. If there's a dead little child inside the family home on a night when there was only the family in there,
right.
then it's most likely a parent when that happens. But
and they showed the picture of the window too. They made it seem like for the viewing audience, like if you're taking in this case for the first time, you're seeing like, oh yeah, that window is wide open. It wasn't. It was open like an eighth of an inch or something like that.
When the people originally scoped through the house in the morning, they did. That's not when they took the crime scene photos. They took the crime scene photos in the evening, which we talk about in one of our episodes. And so Donna's not here, so we're not pulling any clips because fuck her. But I hate her.
There'll be clips in the edit.
But anyway, they tried to make it go like, oh, that there was growing like, a character assassination of the Ramseys happening, and they sort of manifested that like tangibly with the Linda Ott's opinion about John Ramsey, because they didn't talk about her at all, or like the things that she, from her perspective, until later on. They did that out of sequence with other things that happened chronologically. Like on that morning of, they just did like 10 a.m. pass.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then John even said he goes, and then after she did that, like it started the whole thing. Yeah. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, there was so many other things that like cast suspicion on you guys.
And she didn't do that.
She didn't even
do that until September 9th of 1999.
They're trying to paint this as like super media bad, which again, I mean, media can be bad, but I'm just saying not in this situation where you're saying like, oh, because the media did this. Like,
think of it this way, everybody. When George Lucas re-released the original Star Wars trilogy in theaters, it was around the time that JonBenet died. When George Lucas released Episode 1 of Phantom Menace, it was right before Linda Ott's interview.
That is a very good like point of reference there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was so much time.
There was a great amount of time, if you were alive in those 90s, between those toys at the Taco Bells and everything.
Right.
Between those movies.
Right.
And Linda Arndt's interview was after episode 1.
That's insane.
After.
But they just painted it in this narratively
To make it sound like it came out when Titanic was out.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
This so-called detective. Like, this is all bullshit.
It's bullshit. And so that really lost me in my hardest of hopes that they were going to be actually like objective. And I mean, and it's also, it's an editing choice that is so on the parent and on the nose. I'm eating shrimp, everybody.
I know, stop.
I'm eating shrimp. It's dripping down my finger, shrimping. But it's just so apparently an editing choice because after they had the Linda Arndt interview thing, there was no sort of, aside from just like a little stamp that was done on a
so tiny.
on a news article, that showed that interview was in 1999. They never said it out loud. They never made it a point of talking about it. But then after the Linda Arndt thing, which is supposed to be like, oh, so she was the only cop there, and she's talking shit about the Ramseys, and people, are talking shit about the Ramseys
Not even
because of her. But then it goes into John saying a day or two later or some shit like that. Like after, like it's meant to insinuate that day or two after that interview, but that interview was almost 3 years later.
Absolute bullshit.
That's bullshit. That is bullshit.
She had to clear a name too. The thing was like, again, she was like basically hung out to dry by the chief, who was basically like, you're not gonna be able to talk to the press at all. And they are absolutely like releasing stuff from her personnel file to the press and shitting all over her competency as a detective. But she's also not allowed to speak out against herself. She ended up suing Ella for it too. So
good for her.
All right,
even with her crazy eyes, we still love her.
We are still doing the live commentary for Patreon, but we'll be checking back in with you guys after we finish episode 2, Umbrella of Suspicion.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
We just finished episode 2. What another shit show.
I mean, more like episode number 2, because it was a show of shit.
It was, yeah.
I hated it. That was so dumb.
We started with the Geraldo mock trial.
Oh my God, yeah.
We've done a mock trial too.
We've done mock trials.
What they did throughout this episode is they constantly conflated that the whole police were leaking stuff. They only used the one example of the footprints in the snow with these other outrageous news stories, and they edited it in a way that made it seem like the police were just releasing outrageous things like that,
trying to build up,
to get them to talk.
Yeah, to get them to talk and to try to build up a sentiment that in the public that the Ramseys were the killers, but all the DNA evidence, blah 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 blah, which we already talked about, touch DNA and all that shit. It was excluding the Ramseys. It was such a poor sample.
The saxophone thing, masturbating.
Oh my God,
ridiculous.
That was such an exaggeration. I almost felt like that was there to almost just make people look crazy. But
and the police, and it makes them look bad.
You took some notes, Bobby. What was those things?
So we also got too. I love that they did mention there was a 1995 home video where they're talking to Burke, and it's like, Burke, you've been learning sailing kind of thing. You've been doing sailing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
This is 95 now too. So we knew in 96 that he had been like practicing sailing, but that doesn't also involve knots and stuff like that.
Different kinds of knots, like garrote knots.
Another ridiculous claim was that John Ramsey didn't have a jet.
Oh,
and they were using the example of the fact that Lockheed Martin arranged for a jet for the funeral, so people misreported that John flew his own plane. But then somebody just goes, John didn't have a jet.
He didn't have a jet.
And they just left that at that. John had 2 jets.
He had 2 jets.
Well, 2 planes, technically, but they know exactly what they're doing there. And also, we didn't talk about through the letter. Has not came back up in regards to Patsy's handwriting.
They haven't talked about
Steve Thomas, which they're using footage from the Chris Wolf deposition, where he has to, this is also after Steve Thomas already settled his whole case.
Yeah.
So he's limited on what he can talk about. His whole theory was based on the fact that, while short-sighted, that Patsy wrote the letter. Yeah. That's what was important, and they didn't talk about that. They've only mentioned Patsy writing the letter once in episode 1, and they said this claim of, these experts agreed she didn't write it.
She didn't write it.
Which is not true.
It's not true.
They said out of all the family members, they ruled everybody else out except for her. But they blanket now just said Patsy didn't write it, and they have not focused on that being
at all.
Because that's the important thing. Yeah. Patsy wrote the note. That's what Steve was basing his theory on.
They even talk about that other girl, that girl who got assaulted, and that guy, her dad like chased the guy out of the bedroom or whatever. Yes. And they tried to, and John Ramsey's like, well, I mean, they were 7 months apart, and it's like, if I was a novice detective, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but there was no ransom letter. There was no intent to kidnap that girl. Right. You know what I mean? Like
and they conflated again with the reports of showing that there were sex assaults. And then they immediately went to the Amy Hill thing as like, these sex assaults were adult crimes, okay? This Amy Hill is the only other one involving a child. And it wasn't even the same crime. But they edit it in a way to be like, oh, look, there was a rampant serial rapist around Boulder.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this wasn't targeting little girls. No. Anything like that. So it's just editing tricks that are just egregious.
Egregiously manipulative in a way that's meant to distract you from actually using your logic and reasoning. Because there's so much shit where the ways in which they like bounce around everything. Even going back to the first episode, like that Linda Aunt thing that they used to make it sound like Linda Aunt had come out and, was like, kind of like ringing the bell for the police. So like, go ahead and like, accuse the Ramseys of the parents killing her or something in public. Like that shit happened weeks, almost over a month after the last scene of this episode.
With the grand jury,
it's like they're just going back and forth over those 2 years of time, especially.
Painting this weird portrait that they want to, that this police are feeding them information, like even Linda Aunt. Yeah. Speaking with the police. And then to end on that fucking bullshit.
I know, that fucking...
Right before he's going to talk to the grand... And again, one thing they're not mentioning throughout this whole thing is, and I hope they show this, Alex Hunter talks about how me or nobody else can talk about the grand jury proceedings or what took place. Yeah. So they're going to be cherry picking what they're showing of Mitch Morrissey here and Michael Caine, the prosecutor. Yeah. And I like that he's at least standing up for himself a little bit.
I am though.
They're not allowed to talk about it.
They can't talk about it.
They can't talk about the specifics of the case.
They're legally bound. They're going to get sued. Yeah.
Yeah. It's without a court order, they can't talk about it. So
it's like if there was a fight, but one of the fighters had to have their arms tied behind their back. Like they can't throw certain punches because they're legally like given the fucking like.
But they're not going to explain that context.
No,
so you're going to see this. Yeah. You're going to see these people who was like the grand jury prosecutor talking alongside these other testimonies who are Ramsey friends, and the way everything's going to be edited is going to make it seem like, oh well, yeah, the grand jury guys.
Wow, even they're convinced that.
Which I can't wait to see how they're going to spin this.
I mean, my God, I kind of can't wait because I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Well, again, we're still doing our live commentary on Patreon, so we're going to get back to that, and we'll be back with you guys after we watch episode 3, The Truth is Going to Prevail. Yeah.
Ludicrous.
We finished.
I'm drunk.
And we started drinking this episode, too, so let's do a little bit more.
Please.
Cup. Yeah. Guys.
Oh my God.
What an absolute shit show.
Horrible.
Spent so much time on John Mark Carr. And if you listen to our live commentary on Patreon, I very much speculate that this is where they're going to go as, all these people were set free
Bobby
inaccurately. But I'm surprised they did do more information than I've known about Gary Livet to clear him. They showed the footage of him being like, I didn't kill it. And he would also cop to it just for 3 square meals a day.
Yeah, which makes it sound like this guy's insane and he'll just do anything. So
put him back on the table? What?
Well,
really?
I think what they're doing, Bobby, is that now that he's released, if he were to ever come like draw any attention to himself, and maybe even say something that went counter to the Ramsey team's narrative. Maybe he was trying to say, "Oh yeah, I was about to come up with an agreement with to be the fall guy or whatever." They'll be like, "Oh, he's out of his mind." I mean, he would have claimed for this for 3 square meals. You know what I mean? Right. It's just to eliminate any sort of any testimony from him in the future. But my fucking God, that episode was trash.
It was trash. And actually, honestly, out of all 3 episodes, I made a note of this because this was honestly the biggest revelation to me is the whole Patsy and palliative care. We knew before, we've talked about this before, where John chose to put Patsy in palliative care, which was end of life care. But in this, it was revealed that John chose to put her in palliative care and didn't tell her.
Did not tell her.
He had, again, and this feeds into the narrative of everything we've been saying about the family, about how they do not talk.
No, they don't communicate.
Don't talk, and he had a hard time telling his wife that he took away her own agency to choose whether or not she wanted to live. Yeah. She had enough cognizance to be able to be like, hey, when's my next appointment, my treatment? And they even set up a phone for her, supposedly on her deathbed, so she could possibly communicate with John Mark Carr if he were to try to get in touch with her. Okay? So to say that, like, what? She wasn't good enough to decide, like, them having trouble even telling his wife, hey, I decided you're not going to live. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, just letting her just die every day. Every day he's just carrying that, which also means he can keep a secret. If he can do that around his own wife that entire time. Because also, I also wonder if she had known that they weren't doing treatment, would she have changed her behavior in any way?
Right. Or would she have been able to? Because maybe she was possibly too drugged up at this point to even fight it. So it's like, wow, I just got to quiet. It's like putting a fucking dog down, John. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
It's exactly like that. And I mean, John Ramsey, Mr. like, my daughter's college friend said, I wouldn't want my parents to be sad if I died. So he just like isn't doesn't get sad by the women in his life dying, because now he's had 3 women die in like a decade and a half, and he just moves right on.
Right.
Bum, 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 bum. And I'm almost have to wonder, like, John Ramsey, what the fuck is up with you?
Right.
Like,
And his new wife was just like, oh yeah, she's like, I was skeptical at first, but he sold me over. He's a businessman kind of thing.
it's just his mealy mouth sort of fucking like, shrewd little tiny little man shrew, like, oh me, I would never do that.
Right.
And it's like, shut up. You worked for Lockheed Martin. Like, shut the fuck up. Stop acting like you had $1 billion company. Don't act like you didn't crush a few skulls.
They didn't bring that back up again. Where it's like he had planes. The man was rich. They made him seem like he was poor. They did finally bring back up the ransom note, which was Steve Thomas's theory, like we talked about in the last part. But it was just buried, like very quickly. In the thing of Steve Thomas' whole theory was based on Patsy wrote the note. That was it.
But they edited it in a way where it's like you didn't even get to make that direct connection. Like the one time when they used like Steve Thomas's like quote from that Larry King thing, it was like oh, like why do you what's your theory or something? And he's like, I think, and then cut like
it was like they changed that part.
He didn't even say the part. They cut out
when he was
part.
talking to Patsy. That was the second episode. In the third one, they did finally say I think you wrote the note, but it was so glossed over, and they just had Patsy go, when did I do that, before or after? And he goes, well, you tell me, Patsy, you wrote the note. But that was he only mentioned no professionals, no on-screen talking heads about it. Just that first episode, somebody going, oh, these people cleared her from writing the note. That's ridiculous. The main hinge point of this whole fucking case is that it's clear Patsy wrote the fucking note.
But that's the thing. When we saw at the Crime Con from this past year, we saw that there was a concerted effort for them, and in recent years, for them to gloss over the note. We saw it with the 60 Minutes Australia. We saw it with Tamron Hall, where they're not talking about the note. And it's like this thing where it's like that is when you look at the note and what this documentary could have easily done, instead of spending 30 minutes on John Mark Carr, what this documentary at some point easily could have done was to spend even 2 minutes on the handwriting analysis to show us they did like a passing cursory glance of one piece of Patsy's handwriting, but it's like show us more of her handwriting and show handwriting of the note.
Well, the note they showed a lot on screen was the B-roll footage, which was a recreation of the note.
Oh my God.
It wasn't even the same. There was a Reddit post somebody pointed out, like, why are they using a different note? Because the handwriting's not even exactly the same.
Jesus.
So the B-roll footage they're showing, absolute bullshit. They went the route of whole being like everybody needs to be back on the table because Michael Tracy has this moment where it's the only moment in the documentary where they do that moment where like the documentary is like, wait, what? You hear him slightly off screen like, oh, this is a big moment, guys. And he's saying allegedly the test, which is ridiculous because again, my main thing with John Mark Carr is one of the things is John Mark Carr speculated in his 4-year correspondence with Michael Tracy.
4 years. 4 fucking years he talked to him.
Is that he drugged JonBenet. We know from the talk screen that was released from JonBenet, she was not drugged, which is one of the main reasons that he's also discounted. Not necessarily just because of DNA that they're saying might have allegedly been done faulty. Like what are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing here, folks?
I mean, what it sounds like we're doing is sounds like Michael Tracy in lieu of like in order to get like his footage used and like the attachment, he was kind of put as almost like this important agent in the climax of this 3-hour documentary because they spent so much time on the John Mark Carr Chronicles. Without talking about anything that made it seem fishy, like the fact that he was talking to him for 4 years, or that even what their names
Ollie Gray and John St. Augustine were monitoring by the end his correspondence with John Mark Carr,
or that Michael Tracy worked at the fucking University of Boulder, Colorado, and like we have all those things that where it's like
he still does, and they leave out too like the whole like John Mark Carr what he was originally arrested for in California, and again they say child pornography, but it was because he'd been communicating with a woman who he had said questionable things about the JonBenet case. Where he was saying that he might have been involved. So they started looking into him. They found child pornography. He fled the country. When he comes back after they do the whole, they let him go. No, he was released into custody of the police office in California. Went to trial, basically. It turns out the police lost the computer that had the child pornography. It had gone missing, which is very suspicious considering all the things we've covered with John St. Augustine.
And his company
that on Q, where they do evidence management software.
And they're in complete control of the chain of command or chain of custody.
And the Ramseys have been recently saying they think something might have been missing. I'm surprised they didn't say it in this doc.
I
know.
They
floated out maybe something's missing kind of evidence.
They're trying to make it seem like, we need, like the evidence is being hidden, but then if the evidence is revealed, they'll reveal like, this is missing. But then also like we want like a public, genealogy genealogy thing to do it, which sounds like Outram,
right?
Which it works with, you know, the Crime Con and other fucking associates that work with the Ramseys.
And then they sponsored the change.
Which then they would be in charge of maybe just creating whatever results they want.
It's a private lab.
And to make it sound like, it was like, they could make it even go, it was Jean-Marc Carr. Or they could make it go like it's some dead guy.
I'm for it if they get monitored.
They got to be monitored.
And then at the end where they do the whole Burke shit. They spent a lot of time trying to make it like, don't even look at it, guys. Let's talk about this recently because I actually talked with John Andrew Ramsey about this last night.
Oh yeah, that's
where
right.
I brought up how it's like, hey, John did this Crime Junkies interview on Friday, which honestly was a mistake now that this has come out. Oh yeah, had he not done that, the biggest glaring thing that happened in this interview, which we'll play a clip of, is that John basically, when asked about Burke, admits that he hasn't talked to him about that night or what he said on Dr. Phil where Burke says he got up. John says, well, that may be fiction. Which, no, we're going to play the clip here.
He's a good adult. He was a good son. If he knew anything, it would not be something he would thought
is important. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if there's something in there, like, even, so I know in the Dr. Phil, one of the things that came out was the idea that you used a flashlight to put him to sleep and that he came back down to play with a toy. Like, when he's down and people are sleeping, has he ever talked, like, did he get the sense that someone else was in the home? Did he hear anything? I don't know how long was he up?
No, we've never asked him that. I don't know. I didn't know, frankly, that he got up again. I'm not sure he did. Again, that's fiction. There's so much fiction out there.
Because it's just thrown out there. It's just Dr. Phil who says, you got up to play with the toy, and Burke says, yeah, I did. It was something that I wanted to put together. And then it kind of just like
away. You know, again, when we got home, JonBenet had fallen asleep.
I know you and Burke came.
I put her to bed. Burke and I sat down and tried to put together one of his little toys for a little while, just because he wanted to. And then he went off to bed.
You're saying like that whatever Dr. Phil said and Burke said on the show, he didn't come back down?
And I think your dad had said he used the flashlight that night to put you to bed, and then you snuck downstairs to play.
Yeah, I had some toy that I wanted to put together. I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out.
I didn't know that he came back down, if he did.
Does stuff like that make you want to be like, oh my gosh, maybe there's something he knows?
Burke would have said something if something was weird, but he may have misunderstood the question too.
I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out.
So he's clearly lying, and they haven't talked to Burke about it, which is just another example of poor communication in the family.
Yeah. I'm led to believe that they never asked Burke one fucking question about this entire night. When, you know, that just doesn't even make any sense, because how would you not ask them even if, like, did you hear something?
Exactly.
What, you know, was there, blah, blah. It's not like asking him or talking to him about it is not immediately saying that he did it, but they want us to believe that, no, there's little no reason to even involve him in this case, blah, blah, blah. That it was literally also like one of the final beats of this entire documentary.
Right.
Because it's being set up as almost like, John,
don't look here.
Yeah, don't look here.
But guess what? John fucked up.
So spend the next 20, 30 years looking at all these other things and never getting a real answer unless it's an answer that we control. But never look at Burke Ramsey. Never look at Burke.
Never look at Burke. So here's my correspondence with John Andrew. I said, while you're here, what's the deal with Burke coming back downstairs that evening? Your dad claimed it as fiction on Crime Junkies, but Burke has clearly said otherwise. Have you ever asked Burke since your father has not? Which is what John says. John Andrew goes, Burke is not considered a suspect by the police, DA, and grand jury. Michael Caine is a giant prick, and even he came out to say Burke has nothing to do with it. For fuck's sake.
Oh my God.
My reply, that didn't answer the question. And I'm not saying Burke did it, but your family's legal team has maintained a list of 70 key facts about the murder of JonBenet and the law enforcement investigation. Numbers 5 and 6 read, number 5, neither John and Patsy nor Burke woke up during the night that led into December 26th. Number 6, Burke did not leave his bedroom that night. Seems like some of his innocence hinged on a key detail that even your dad was unaware was incorrect. How can you not find that weird?
Oh my God, excellently put, Bobby. What do you say?
He said it's entirely irrelevant, and I can tell you not a single investigator gives it any thought, just the internet. I told him that seems incredibly short-sighted, but thank you for completely avoiding the question. He goes on to say, just telling you what the real world thinks. Reddit thinks this stuff matters. The people with guns and badges do not.
Wow. Wow. You hear that, everybody?
He's a little cocky little prick.
You hear the true character of John Andrew Ramsey?
It's not irrelevant. It's not relevant. Like, what are we talking about here, guys? He says he got up in that night. John just said 2 days ago he didn't even know that, and he tried to say maybe it was fiction when it's clear. What we have here, folks, is a communication issue. Oh. This family does not talk.
They don't talk.
There was a People article, too, that came out just a couple days ago that said, from an insider in the family, it says Burke, this is catching up with Burke like years later, an insider, supposedly a family member, said that Burke does not talk about the case at all. JonBenet is not on the table. If that comes up, this conversation gets shut down immediately.
Wow.
This was the same day John did the Crime Junkies interview.
Wow.
So in conjunction with that, we see clearly here, no one's actually talking about the real shit.
It's like the best case scenario is that nobody in this family talks. The worst case scenario is it's a concerted effort to minimize and delegitimize any lead that like even would suggest us even communicating with Burke, let alone insinuating that he might have been involved with her death.
Absolutely.
Because even if he had gone downstairs, when then that Dr. Phil and clip, which was being scrubbed by the internet,
yeah, I just found it on Reddit because people were saying it's not there, so I've re-uploaded one.
Thank God for you. Bobby is just doing the Lord's work, everybody. You should join our Patreon. So support us. But basically, in that clip, Burke is saying that he went downstairs and he waited till everybody was, almost everybody was kind of asleep. And so that he could like get his toys. And then it's like, for me, as a parent and as an investigator, if I were to hear that detail, I'd be like, did you hear anything when you were down there?
Exactly.
Was there any sounds? Did you hear glass break?
Jar's immediately responding to me as if I'm saying he's a suspect, when it's like, no, it's more relevant. It could be more relevant to him being up that night and then being like, oh, well, he would have said something.
Yeah.
But you said you didn't even ask.
Yeah. And you're also saying that it's stupid and it's unpopular and it's like, oh, we're dweebs for
People with
thinking
guns
about
and
it.
badges don't? Okay,
Well, guess what? They haven't solved the fucking case, you piece of shit.
Tell it to James Kohler.
Yeah.
He's a fucking cop. He worked with Boulder PD for 17 fucking years.
And he thinks Burke did it.
And also, again, Jar, everyone's supposed to be back on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just say everybody was back on the table. Oh, but not Burke.
Right.
Not the boy that lives there.
Not the boy who apparently got up in the middle of the night, too. And Jad doesn't even know about it.
How about the ropes that were in the guest bedroom, which was your bedroom, John Andrew Ramsey? Go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. We're not letting you off the fucking hook. We will always be asking these questions. I fucking hate you.
Well, I'm glad we've been having correspondence with them on there. But the Crime Junkies interview was definitely very revealing, like I said, with the Burke thing.
Oh, yeah.
John also walks back, ever making a call to his pilot that morning.
When you made that, would you make the call? Because did you or you didn't make a call to start?
I don't remember how that evolved. No, I didn't, actually. I'd asked one of the detectives. There's only one detective there that morning. Everybody else was on vacation. It was day after Christmas. But there were lots of detectives and police there. And I can't remember what I said, but like, I want to go home. And he said, yeah, that's fine. Go.
He describes the whole incident with Flea as basically like, oh, nothing. Like, he doesn't remember what Fleet was upset about, even though we've now since found out that there was a whole police department that came out and they were there for 6 hours.
Because you guys have like a huge falling out, right? Like,
well, it was just because it was bizarre. I mean, he came back to Atlanta to attend the funeral. And we made arrangements for our Boulder friends to stay with Atlanta friends in their homes. And our friends that we had that person stay with called, they didn't call us, but they called somebody that was helping us and say, we want him out of our house. He's bizarre, something screwy. And so we put him with my brother. My brother called me a day or so later and said, do you have a gun in the house? And I said, no. Well, Fleet is on his way to your house. We were with Patsy's parents. Something's wrong. And
what was he saying? Like, I mean, for your brother to say, do you have a gun? Like, that's scary.
My brother's as passive a person you ever want to meet.
So what does he say when he gets to you? Because I know in Patsy's deposition, she's like, I don't know, I was in the basement. Like, I'm not part of that conversation. Yeah. And it seems like she never asked you. But like, what is that conversation?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
And Teddy, this was very interesting.
Why?
In regards to like the blue crab theory and stuff we've talked about, we found out that Burke got to have a little friend come with them to Atlanta.
Really?
They still got to go on a plane ride.
And Lockheed sent one of their airplanes out, which is wonderful. Yeah, flew us back to Atlanta.
So.
And took one of little Burke's friends with him at the last minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What friend came with him?
I can't remember his name, but it's one of his buddies. And the mom, they were at the airport seeing us off. And I forget how it came up, but whatever his name was, Taylor, could he come with us? And we're like, I'm sure he could, but I don't know that his mother would like that.
What would like?
And his mother, yes, that's great, wonderful.
Oh, wow.
So Burke and Patsy and I and this little friend are on this Lockheed plane that flew us back to Atlanta.
Dun, 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 dun. So much shit that, you know what, this documentarian, go fuck yourself. Like, I give people respect for having different perspectives. I give people respect for even having different degrees of, like, awareness of things in this case. But you don't get to have the reputation of having these world-class documentaries that are penetrative and asking questions and shedding light on things that have never been shown before. When you literally just retreaded the same fucking steps that the Ramseys have been plotting away.
Actually, they did it in a new way, though. But they did it in a way that it was, again, they made it seem like the police were leaking stuff in the media that was weird stories. Like, oh, the Saxon masturbating. Like, it's the way they edited everything.
Yeah,
they made it seem like Linda Arndt made an interview before, the Ramseys ever did on CNN. Like, it's a whole... You know what you're doing, Joe Berlin.
You know exactly what you're doing.
However you say it.
Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter. You're not a great documentarian. You're a fucking...
you join the ranks of, Susan Bennett and other shitty people. Just Linwood. People who are going to be profiting off this.
How does it feel to either be so incompetent or to be culpable in the cover-up of this case that you didn't help it get any closer to shedding the truth?
And making money on helping the cover-up.
And deceiving a whole new generation of people all around the world that have access to Netflix now.
Knowing what you're doing.
Good. I hope you're happy with yourself. Merry
it's
Christmas.
Fun that they put all those Reddit screenshots as a thing of like that. Well, we got John Andrew actively on the Reddits trying to fight it. And he's been doing it on the JonBenet Ramsey subreddit, the unpopular one. Oh. And he's not getting a lot of traction. He's being an asshole. He's not fully answering questions. He's just avoiding what comes, like certain things that come up, like
between his cocky aggressiveness and John Ramsey's inability to be able to on the spot like save himself from like Burke's faults on camera. They fucked themselves up with this. They fucked them. I mean,
Crime Junkies. He really fucked with that.
Yeah,
Thank
Crime
God
Junkies.
for that happening. And honestly, Ashley Fallow, I believe that was your name. You did an amazing interview.
We need to talk to her.
I would love to talk to her.
Ashley, what's her name?
Fallow, I believe.
Jimmy Fallon?
No, I'll correct it if that's wrong.
It was Flowers. I'm sorry.
But still, that was great, and it couldn't have come at a better fucking time.
Oh my God. I'm just glad that we know what we know.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, and that stuff came at the best time. That was the best question to ask John Ramsey. You really shot your shot. You're a real journalist, investigative
Absolutely,
journalist.
yes. And even rushing him through the bullshit. When he's like, well, me and Burke came. She's like, yeah, I know you guys put it together. I don't want to hear the bullshit byline.
Again, when we got home, JonBenet had fallen asleep.
I know you and Burke came.
I put her to bed.
Like, thank you for being a millennial and where we're not playing their old fucking like dog and pony games. Where all these people are, they drink fucking leaded water all their fucking lives. And they, and then they think if you just run out the clock by talking slow, and if you appear like innocent in front of the cameras, then you can convince anybody, or it's enough traction for you to cover it up or whatever. Go fuck yourselves. Like I said, like every time we watch anything you say, anytime we listen to you, anytime we read anything, we are looking at it from a tesseract of a four-dimensional sphere, and we can just see all different ways, blah, 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 and we can see the ways that you're contradicting other things you said. We can see the ways in which, you might be trained to do things, and, your intent, unintended things, and what you do, and blah, blah, and it's just like one of those things where it's like game over, and John Andrew Ramsey, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to get past the reference. You're not good enough. Your dad does at least got this persona down pat. Too bad he can't keep up the act when it comes to Brent.
Right. He's tried to say, John Andrew say on the Reddit too, that he's lived in Breeze's case for 25 years, so yeah, he thinks he knows. And it's like, bullshit, buddy. You didn't know about fat cats.
Yeah.
There's so many things, again, when you say the Burke's irrelevant getting up. Why
Probably
is that
knows
irrelevant?
more than you.
You don't talk to your brother, just admit it. Nobody talks to him.
No. So that's I honestly, I'm so glad that's done. I'm never going to watch that documentary again.
Nope. I mean, I'm glad we've made notes and we've recorded our live reaction to it, which again, you can, if you want, you can go do the commentary and time it up with us. It's on patreon.com/JonBenet today.
It's 3 hours of us, you guys.
It's 3 hours. We do start to drink in the third episode.
Yeah, because it was terrible.
It started to get egregious.
I mean, I give this a -1 out of 10. It was horrible.
Wait, what?
This whole documentary.
Oh, the documentary, yeah.
Yeah.
I think what we did for it was good.
Oh, our experience was good. I'll give it like a 6.5. No, I'll go
I'm glad
higher.
we went through it. It's something I'll never do again.
I would have gone higher if I wasn't popping my pimples on the back of my ankles.
Okay, that's disgusting.
No, I'm just bleeding on my ankles. It's
All
getting on my
right,
shoes.
well, I feel pretty good about this.
Yeah.
And if I agree with anything with the documentary, again, it's like John Andrew Ramsey said, everybody has to be back on the table. And I think
right.
that should include your younger brother.
Yeah, I think it might even should
Whether or
include
not you
John
guys
Andrew
out there
Ramsey.
listening, Burke did it or not, it's an egregious part of this case that has just been recently revealed. That I think it's for me, it's that warrants looking into him to say they dismiss it. And again, all these people talking about Burke not being a suspect, it's a thing because he's a kid. You couldn't actually be considered a suspect because you can't be considered for murder if you don't have the mindset to do it. So,
And finally, again, to note, even if you don't think Burke did it, which I'm not even entirely sold on that either, the fact that John didn't want to question it is still suspicious enough. That could also be very telling, as in John knows what happened, so why even question it?
And they didn't show none of the weird clips of Burke. They just showed like 2 clips of him, and they kept repeating the one clip from 1995.
and they made Steve Thomas look terrible. But
Yeah.
God bless you, Steve Thomas. You're a hero, but you were a little short-sighted on your, opinion.
Yeah.
But your heart was in the right place.
You know,
And we
you're
love
going
you
through it for the
guys.
first time. How could you know? You know what I mean? Anyway.
Well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And
Yeah.
again, live commentary on the Patreon.
Yeah, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh, yeah. God, that is. Oh, my God.
I
All right,
know.
well, we'll see you after Thanksgiving.
When can I go to your Thanksgiving, Bobby, this year?
Huh?
Can I go Thanksgiving with you?
Yeah, I guess.
I can have some turkey. I'm going to be upset if I eat it.
I mean, as long as you don't just grab it with
I'm just
your
going to
bare
grab it with my hands.
Nope.
Oh, come on, Bobby.
All right.
God
Well,
damn
hey,
it.
I'm Bob Pavlovsky.
And I'm telling you one way, I like eating turkey. I like it.
And this is
JonBenet today.
She picks up a saxophone, and for the next minute and a half, she masturbates with it.